Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome back to another one of our Queenstown Wānaka webinar updates. And this is the second one we're running. And this time we will be taking a deep dive into planning the ultimate incentive. Now, we are also joined by the wonderful Anthony Mitchell from HQ New Zealand. Anthony will be taking us a little bit further down the line on what they do as a business and a little bit of insights from his sides too. Now, the session will be recorded, so we will be sharing the session with you at the end as well, so you can share it around your teams if you want. And there also will be time for questions at the end. So feel free to put any questions that you have in your chat box. I think there might already be something in there now. And a Q&A. Oh, no, that's all sorted. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in and we will get to those. So I'm first going to take you a little bit into the power of incentives, a little bit of Queenstown and Wānaka as destinations of incentives and any current trends we're seeing. And then we will hear further down the line from Anthony Mitchell as well. And then we will get to the questions. So to get started, let's talk about why incentive travel continues to be such a powerful business tool. So firstly, it's proven driver of employee performance and engagement. So top performing organizations around the world they recognize the value of rewarding and motivating their people through shared experiences rather just than through financial. So when employees have something inspirational to work towards, it creates really that healthy competition, it boosts morale, and it drives performance long after the trip itself. It also builds that connection and that culture. So when we see that shared travel experience, it really brings together the people outside of their usual work environment. It strengthens their relationships, it fosters the teamwork, and it builds that sense of belonging and a shared purpose. And that's so essential to that positive workplace culture. And then thirdly, it enhances the brand loyalty. So whether it's employees, it's clients or partners, incentive travel really creates that emotional connection. Those memorable experiences really strengthen that connection people feel with the brand, and it becomes more than just a company that they work for, that they really work with. It's really something that they're proud to be part of. And then finally, it really delivers a strong return on investment. So it's a real investment in its people itself, because what it's doing is it's getting paid back in engagement and loyalty and through results. So when an incentive is done really well, it will really drive those measurable outcomes as well. So when you look at all of this together, it's easy to see why incentives are such a powerful tool. It just goes beyond that rewarding performance. It shapes culture, builds loyalty, it strengthens connection to people. Ultimately, it's really about creating those shared experiences that really inspire people to do their best and to really stay engaged at the work. And even after that trip ends, to have that bond with each other as well. So very important part of the business events world that we see as well. And then what makes Queenstown and Wānaka such incredible destinations? Now, firstly, I think anyone that would have been here won't ever deny that it is the scenes that we have. It starts with the setting. It's those beautiful Southern Alps that we have. It's the lake, it's the landscapes, those mountains, and it's really that sense of adventure that you get all around the area. But it's more than just the scenery. We're very much known for our collaborative community. Everybody works together real well, and it's all about that people that really bring out that vibrant energy. We talk a lot about manakitanga here, which is that true sense of hospitality and caring as well. So it's genuine care of hospitality, and you really, really feel it when you're here. So our local hosts and planners are really amazing at creating those unique type of experiences. So from the moment you arrive right through to your departure. So whether it's an incentive, a conference, or it's an executive retreat, the region just really has that way of bringing ideas to life. It's creating shared moments. Our local experts, which I'm sure Anthony will agree with as well, they love to be challenged. They really want to make the most of those natural environments and the beauty of it to create experiences that will really be unique to our destination. So all around, I think it's one of a kind type destination that you can't find anywhere else in the world. So people really use that in the experience that we can create here as well. And then just to take you through some current trends that we're seeing. So it's interesting. There's a little bit of a shift, I'd say, from previous years that is slowly coming forward. So the first one is the elevated focus on luxury and inclusivity as well. So groups are getting a bit smaller, but that experiences are getting a lot more premium. There's a lot more chat about private charters. They want high-end lodge stays, ultra personalized itineraries, and it's really less about that scale. And it's more about creating something really special and memorable for those top achievers. Then we're also seeing a move towards slower paced itineraries. So there's a big growing appeal for slow travel. There's more downtime, wellness elements, time to connect, some time for yourself to actually explore. Because people are tired, people work hard, so they want to have that time for themselves as well to explore the destination that they're in. Then next, there is that adventure and nature immersion that continues to play that huge role. So people still want that thrill and that sense of awe and adrenaline that we are so well known for. But they also really want its balance with moments of stillness and connection to nature and connection to the environment that we have. Which brings us to there's a shift towards that authenticity and wellness diversification as well. So less about the high adrenaline and adventure reward only. And there's real move towards experience that creates transformative and connection. It's through local storytelling and through well-being as well. There's a lot of new wellness spaces actually being coming into town here. So that shows there's a big investment going into that. So it'll be really interesting to see when all those new spas and outdoor baths are up and running. There's floating saunas coming, how they will be used in that business events space as well. And then we're also seeing more flexibility on the format. So it's smaller, more tailored groups. The itineraries are designed to work around seasons and support that all year round demand, which is really, really great. It really supports our suppliers as well, because that means they can always be coming up with new ways and new ideas of working together as well. So it suits really well for our destination. And finally, which is the big one for us, is that regenerative and sustainable focus. A lot more businesses now have that in their core values that they need to be adding on CSR, or they need to be more carbon conscious. So more programs are really being framed around leaving that positive legacy and leaving a place behind better than what they found. So all this together really shapes of what people are really looking for, and it's showing that the incentive travel is really evolving. It's more intentional, it's more personalized, and it's more connecting to the people, connecting to the place that they're in. So whether it is wherever you are in the world, I think that will continue to shift, and I think that's what we are really loving seeing, how people are really connecting to our destination as well. And I think it's what makes us such a great fit for today's incentive market, really. And then I next up would love to introduce you to Anthony Mitchell. Anthony, you go by Mitch, obviously, as well. You work for HQ New Zealand. It's one of our local DMCs, and you guys are absolutely awesome. You host incredible events. So thank you so much for jumping on and sharing a bit of your insights today. Yeah, I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are.
All good, thanks, Jess. Yeah, I guess a bit of a quick introduction to me. So as Jess said, Anthony, also known as Mitch, just to confuse everything. I've been based in Queenstown since 2013. I've been very fortunate to call this place home since then. My whole background is I've been 18 years in the tourism, hospitality and retail industry, so really familiar with everything that goes on in Queenstown as a whole. I work as sales manager within HQNZ, so that places me kind of at the front end of the incentive process. So I'm working on the concept, the creation and the proposal elements of it. And kind of what I'm going to run through at a high level is kind of a summary of my process and approach, a little insight into how my mind works, because everybody wants that information. And just to give you an idea from a DMC's perspective, based in Queenstown, sort of what approach we take and how we can kind of look at things moving forward with agencies, with corporates direct, and just to hopefully give you guys a few ideas as well. So HQNZ, we are a full service DMC. We've been operating for 25 years. We have a team of 10 of us on the ground working full time, and a pool of casual staff as well. So we can work on larger events when need be. But we have some additional services that fit in with a lot of agencies as well. So we have our own theming and styling equipment, so we can help with dinners and meetings and styling of those elements, but then also team building as well. But we're obviously focusing on incentives today. So the benefits really of involving a DMC within that incentive process is you're not only going to give yourself kind of that access to some additional resource to deliver an event, but you're also going to gain that knowledge at the same time. So for us, we've had over 2,000 events within this region. So we're really familiar with our suppliers, what's achievable, what's deliverable. And it also means that we're really well versed with what can you deliver that's unexpected, what's going to be unique. It's going to open you up to those far greater options that you might not have considered, or ways to tweak the event and just make it truly unique and elevate it in that way. And then what that also means is by freeing up your resource, you're going to be able to focus on that element of what is your client trying to achieve, and let a DMC focus on how you're going to achieve it. The great thing with working with DMCs here is we don't need to be involved in everything. We can help you out with like a single activity day or a single dinner, or just little bits just to take that pressure off as and when you need. And the other great piece is we're very familiar with the weather here. We're planning contingencies from a long way out, 10 days in advance. We start looking at those events. If there's any activities that could be impacted by weather, we start having a look at what's possible, what might be impacted, what solutions can we give you before they become a problem, and start having that conversation from a really early stage. But moving through kind of onto what are those key elements, I guess, within that incentive process, what are the things that really draw to mind for me, and those key milestones as we're moving through it. So the first one really is from that get-go, and it's how we break down the brief. With a lot of what I kind of touch on here, you're hopefully really familiar with it as well, because we're all working in the same industry. So that's what we would like to see. But that brief from the get-go is how we build the framework of conversation, be it with yourselves, with an end client. It's how we start to pick out those details and learn to define what the incentive could look for them. We're looking for what are their goals, what are their desired outcomes, do they have a budget established? What is it they would like to do? Where have they been previously as a group? You know, that information of what did they do last year? What did they enjoy? What didn't they enjoy? Let's make sure we don't have too much crossover when we're making suggestions this time, because the more information that you can gather at that initial stage is going to allow you, whoever you're working with, to operate more efficiently and then provide options that are going to be appropriate to the client. The last thing we want to do is be providing a wide range of options, but then it not actually fit their brief because we haven't been able to gather as much information as an early stage. And that's where we kind of feed onto that, understanding what the client's goals really are and what are their outcomes. The way I kind of approach incentives is I look at two key stakeholders, and it's the same through most pieces. It's the client and then the attendees. They both have different goals, they both have different outcomes. So we need to find a nice balance as to how we can make sure both of those are achieved. If we're looking at the attendee, what the client wants the attendees' outcomes to be, if we're looking, say, they want it to be a team bonding experience as part of the incentive, it opens us up to do some interactive and engaging activities. You know, we can get out and go fun yakking, whitewater rafting. We can actually take some team building activity elements in its traditional sense and build those into an activity to put people in a position where they're going to be more engaged and build those connections with one another. But then if we're looking at something that is purely an incentive, a reward, these are high achievers, we want to make everybody else in the business jealous so they're hitting those targets next year. That's where we're going, right, how can we look at some really bespoke heli flights? Where can we get you to a position where you could have lunch out in the mountains that they're not expecting? Where are those money can't buy locations for your everyday FIT visiting Queenstown and Wānaka? And how can we kind of weave in these surprises into an incentive to make it something where, for us in Queenstown, we want them to go away and go, this was the best incentive they've ever been on, and to still have that feeling the following year when they get back from their next one. But as Jess was saying, wellness as well is a really big growing piece in those outcomes. So wellness is something that you can go for us, we have this beautiful scenic beauty. So, you know, we can look at doing yoga in the backcountry. We can create some spaces where you can have some really good opportunities for grounding or breathing workshops next to the riverside, but also build it into an element where maybe there's a communal area at the end of the day and there's just some masseuses at the hotel, just to add that little bit extra. And then you can move through to outcomes like networking, because when we have clients from a global base, actually networking can be a really important piece for them to connect with people from the same business, but from different areas, and share their ideas and thoughts. And that's where, for us, we'd be looking at how can we combine in some of those casual style dinners opposed to a set seated dinner. Do you use somewhere like the bungee center where they can have a bit of fun and do something a little bit different, have that shared experience, but then still build those goals? And as we kind of move through to that, how do we make it unique? That's when I think something really important to bear in mind coming off the back of those goals is a lot of your clients may have been to Queenstown before on a personal basis. Some of the planners, some of the CEOs have spent a lot of time here. And I've found, especially over the past few years, it's a really important piece to, one, bear that in mind, but also remind them and provide that piece that not everybody's been to Queenstown. They may not have experienced it. Just because you've experienced something and don't necessarily want to do it again, it doesn't mean that 70% of your group may not have experienced it and it still be this blow your mind experience for them. And we're really fortunate in Queenstown that you do have so many great retail products when it comes to activities. But when we're talking about building the ultimate incentive, it's about creating that unexpected. It's about making it unique. It's stepping away from the comfort zone of what is a brilliant retail product and tweaking it. It's putting your client's flavor on it, adding an element here or there. Queenstown and Wānaka, we really pride ourselves on standing out and not being normal and doing things differently. And it's something that we can really feed into that incentive piece as well. It gives you a great opportunity to build things in a different manner that create a really strong emotional connection with this region. And as you're here with us, you realize why we are also here as well. But like, if we're talking about some of those unique elements we can do to elevate, like, let's just throw out a few ideas in general. Things that we've done in the past that work really well. You could have a Punamu blessing as a gift for a small group, and that could be on the riverside halfway through them doing their jet boat arrival when they've landed at the airport. Instant way to connect with the local community, instant way to connect with the local culture, adding in those different elements. You can do some awards with a difference. So photo that we'll have on the next slide that we'll show you is we've recently, as part of an incentive, the client didn't want their awards to be as a part of their gala dinner. So we did their awards out in the backcountry where we had audio already set up for them. They flew in by helicopters, and then they had their awards in a position where they were just truly engaging with that pure element, but they weren't expecting that to be there. So instant elevation of an experience. You can use some really great dinner locations, as we're saying, places they can't eat if they were just a normal FIT, the likes of the Bungee Center. You have the likes of Heidi's Hut up at Coronet Peak, which for a small group of up to 30, great way to dine in a chalet on the side of a mountain in the snow in winter, which again isn't something you'd expect to be able to do in New Zealand. Or you can go really out there and you could create an activity hub out in Paradise, in Glenorchy, in the far end of nowhere, and the activities come to you. So you have a marquee set up for lunch. You have some four-wheel drives coming to take you, some helicopters flying you up to a glacier, and a jet boat taking you up the river, and just really taking things and making them your own, thinking outside the box. That all does come with a cost. So, and I think the budget conversation has become a challenging one, especially the last couple of years. Everybody's been feeling the pinch. It's been feeding through businesses. I definitely feel we're through the bottom of it and we're heading in the right direction, heading out, which is great to see. But it's a challenging conversation to have. So we really try not to look at budgets as constraints, because we have so much adaptability and flexibility with all the suppliers here, and we have this great community that we can still build really great bespoke elements into products with lower budgets. but it's still a really important one to bear in mind that even if you're able to establish a budget tolerance or a budget range, it means that you're going to be able to operate efficiently. If we're working with you, we can provide options that are going to be within that scope of what you're wanting to achieve. And we're not offering something that's going to scare somebody off at the same time. And I think a really good piece to bear in mind as well, that depending on the cycle clients are on, a lot of people did come to Queenstown post-COVID, especially out of the Australian and the New Zealand market. And there was a price lull following COVID. So prices have really stabilized and we are back on that same track we were seeing pre-2019. So it's more about working in a way and creating a product for the client in that incentive and making sure that they can still achieve what they want to achieve, but understanding that there may be some more creativity required to help that meet what their budget currently is. And as I was saying before, we always look at those two different core stakeholders. So that second one is the client themselves and their brand, especially when it comes to incentives. So it's really easy for us to focus on what the outcomes would be for the attendees, but we also need to think and give the opportunity to consider where can we push the brand back into the incentive. Is that at the gala dinner projecting it onto the mountainside? Is that a banner hanging from a bridge with their brand on when they've got a jet boat going underneath it? Is it smaller elements here and there? And especially if it's a high achievers club or a high sales club, those photos, those media pieces that they're going to pick up when that branding is in there in this unique location is going to be so key for the client to then be able to build that buy-in to the incentive in the following year as well. And then obviously delivering a load of moving pieces is always tricky. That's where we were saying before, how we can help as a DMC is really key, that it doesn't have to be on a whole event. It can be on one core element where you need that additional resource to deliver something. And it's where all the DMCs in Queenstown are great at being able to support you in those one bit so you can focus on something else, or you can free up that resource if it's just for a full activity day. And then you're not having to think about those contingency pieces. You're not having to think about all those different elements and moving pieces that come with it as well. One of the great things with Queenstown and Wānaka is we really do have a great range of products. We've got high adrenaline, we have scenic adventure, we have wellness. So there's so many different ways you can build things that it's something that we can have a chat with you and really help you look at things in a different manner, if that's something that you're wanting to do. And with all of those, when we all put it together, there's obviously so many different ways we can approach it. There's a whole different ways we've done things in the past. So if we look at the top right there, that was an executive retreat that we changed into an e-bike backcountry riding and glamping. It's something that you could do as a 5-star as well and use a 5-star location as a base instead, but you can access some really great different pieces of terrain. There's so many different iconic experiences that you can do in Queenstown that people don't necessarily think of. You can build things like utilize activities that we have in Queenstown or some of the iconic things for the region, like some of the wineries, but build that in a really different way. So for example, you could access some of the smaller wineries with a small bespoke group, and you can get a jet boat to, if you have a slightly group who isn't adverse to a little bit of activity and walking, you can get a jet boat to the base of the likes of Chard Farm, and you can jet boat them out to the start of their wine tour before a little walk, and then away you go at something completely different and unique that nobody will have been able to do by themselves. Or as we're saying, that bottom right photo, there's a picture there of that award ceremony we're doing out in the middle of nowhere and giving people that opportunity to do something a bit different. Queenstown's also really fortunate that we have a lot of really unique venues. So Heidi's Hut's there on the left-hand side, small mountain dining. You can use the vineyards in different ways. You can do cork and fork style events. There's ways to access different venues that you may not consider. But one of the great things to do if you have the right client is really taking them away from everything and having a marquee in the middle of nowhere up by the likes of Moke Lake, where they're going to get some beautiful views, and just going to dine somewhere that they wouldn't really expect it. And kind of my final piece as well, just to call out for Queenstown, is sometimes people can look at us and go that we can't manage large groups. We can. Activities are scalable. The community here in the event space is amazing. Everybody is super adaptable. Everybody works together so well that even if you have a couple of days to create some activities on rotation, you would be surprised at the size of group we're actually able to work with on a larger scale, but also how quickly that can scale down to a smaller and more bespoke group as well. But that's a little bit from my mind. I'll pass back over to Jess for a bit for you.
Yes. That was absolutely awesome. I feel like I actually learned a lot. You really see some and do some amazing things. I feel like it's endless of possibilities. Lots of stuff that I haven't even witnessed that myself or even heard about. So I think that's absolutely awesome. And I think also mentioning that budget piece is always important, because we'd all love to be working with people who have unlimited budgets, but that's not always the case, is it? So still being able to create those wow moments, I think is, you know, really important that you do know how to work with those budgets. So I think working with a DMC who has done this all before, who does see this all the time, who knows the Queenstown and Wānaka market, who knows the community, knows where pricing can be set as well, can be super beneficial. So thank you so much. I do have some questions for you, because I just think they could be great benefit for some of the attendees here as well. After this, we will go into some questions for the attendees. So if you do have any questions, guys, just start popping them in, and we can get to them. So Mitch,
Yes.
my first one, to be honest, you probably have answered quite a few of these, which is great, but how would you say balancing and creating that wow moment with ensuring that logistics are still run smoothly? Because logistics are a big part of making everything work well. So how do you make sure you're still creating the wow when you're taking them back and forth and up and down and all over?
Yeah, so I think that really comes from that initial brief stage and that planning stage, working with whoever we're working with, understanding what it is they're wanting to achieve, and being able to present multiple options from the get-go, have an idea of what works really well with them, and then we pull in the operational team at quite an early stage to make sure that everything that we're doing, and we work really collaboratively in our office as well, and to make sure that anything that we're going to present is genuinely achievable.
Yeah.
I think that's the piece. It's understanding those outcomes for the client and then feeding that back into the event itself.
Nice. And what would you say are some key elements that would elevate an incentive from great to unforgettable? Like the real, well, I guess what you've just been talking about, those really unforgettable. What makes a difference?
So I think for me, there's those two pieces. There's the one where possible, stepping away from a retail product they could walk in and buy themselves. That doesn't mean that you have to completely do something different. That can be adding in an element that isn't part of it already. So it can be using a provider, and for example, if you're on a four-wheel drive tour, why not have a wine tasting meet you partway around the four-wheel drive tour, not at a winery, but out in a canyon? Yeah.
It's like unexpected, right? It's that extra that nobody would have thought what was going to happen. No, that's awesome. And would there be any lesser known gems or unique touches that you like to include that really surprise delegates?
I think for me, the lesser known is people obviously look at Queenstown and they consider Queenstown. We're not just Queenstown, we're Queenstown Wānaka. The amount of hidden gems there are out towards Wānaka and down in the Cardrona Valley is really great, especially for some of those smaller groups. You've got the likes of some awesome gun ranges, some different vineyards out that way, distilleries, and I think there's some really great options out there that are really worth looking at. But also just there's so many. I'm not going to give them all away.
Oh yeah, we don't want to know your secrets. What's been your favorite wow moment that you've seen within group experiences? Like what's one that really stood out for you?
So I think for me, as a person, it comes down to seeing people create that emotional connection to the region. I'm obviously at the front end planning things a lot of the time. So we had a group really recently who reached out and worked with us, corporate direct coming from the Sunshine Coast, and it was their first incentive outside of Australia. And I was really in depth working on the planning of that from the get-go, and they did this beautiful helicopter ride that flowed into a wine tasting and behind the scenes winery experience. And for me, it was that element of, one, they hadn't experienced anything like that before on any of their incentives, but two, seeing people be able to understand why we live here, why we love sharing it, and why we kind of run these webinars and reach out and go out to people so much in market, because we want people to see here and we want people to come here and share that experience.
Yeah, very beautifully said. You're very passionate, and I love that. I feel, so you're from the UK.
Yes.
I'm from the UK, and we can see why we're living on the other side of the world, really. And I guess for clients and planners watching today, what's the best way to work with a DMC like yourselves and to get the most out of their incentives? So how early should planners really involve you in that process?
Yeah, I think if you were looking to work with a DMC, obviously the earlier you talk to us, the better. We can then help you, and it's not one of those we're trying to do everything for you. We're trying to help you where suits you. So having that conversation from an early stage, knowing where you might need support for that conversation. And one of the really important things as well is, if you're working with your client or if you're in a competitive bid, is being open about that, because then we're able to provide you with a lot more clear descriptions. If we're working with you to build something that's really bespoke, we want to make sure you can communicate it as clearly as possible, because you want to make sure your end client is comparing apples with apples when they're looking at your competitor's bid as well. So we want to make sure you can communicate as well as we can what the difference is with what you're presenting to what somebody else might.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. So then what's one piece of advice you'd give to event planners thinking about bringing their next incentive to Queenstown or Wānaka?
For me, it's understanding the scope of what we can do and reaching out to the resources that are there. And I know me and Jess keep saying it, and mainly me, but our events community is great. So if that's you're wanting to understand more and it's reaching out to Jess and Louisa and the team at Destination Queenstown, or if it's trying to connect with us whenever the Queenstown community's over at the next roadshow, or seeing some of the suppliers at meetings, that's honestly the best thing to do and the best way to give yourselves as much knowledge as possible and kind of get those ideas feeding in your minds as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great tip. I think knowledge is power, and staying up to date with what's new, what's happening, know who your people are in a fast moving environment, and keeping an eye on who the teams are, I think is a great idea as well. So thank you so much, Mitch. I think that's been super insightful. I think you've given so much information, and definitely given some great ideas out there on what people could be doing and thinking when they're planning their incentives. So no, I really appreciate that.
Not a problem.
If anyone has any questions, I haven't seen anything popped up. Have I? Is there anything there? Not at the moment. You still can ask questions throughout. You're more than welcome to. But in the meantime, I will just remind you that there are multiple ways that you can work with us at the Queenstown Convention Bureau. So you can sign up to our newsletter where we do post these updates as well. So please keep an eye on those, because that's where you can find out a lot of what's happening around town and where we keep you updated. You can also take a look at our website. It's full of blogs. It's full of reasons why to come here. Some itinerary suggestions for you as well that we're always changing. So please take a look at those. You can also follow us on LinkedIn for the latest, and also take a look at our resources and tools. Our business events guide, which we call our Bible here, is full of our supplier information, including contact information and capacity charts as well. So multiple ways that you can keep in touch with us as a destination. And just that reminder that we are here to help you if you do need any RFP assistance, if you just want some guidance or just some impartial advice. That's what we're there for. So you're more than welcome to reach out at any time as well. I will be sharing this with you after we finish, and just our resources as well. And I will share Mitch's details with you as well in case you have any more questions for him. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us. Mitch, thank you again. It's been great having you here. And yeah, wish everybody a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.